On the Edusites English homepage, you will find this document that we're going to use today under the AQA GCSE English language materials, and this document is called the Brothers Moderation booklet. And using this document, which is here, it goes through the different suggestions of ways that you can use the document in your school, and then each question has a level answer, level 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an explanation as to why that response would have been given that level. So using this, I literally just copied and pasted it into this PowerPoint, which is what I'll use to go through these responses today. So the AQA English Language GCSE Paper 1 Explorations in Creative Reading and Writing. So this is the exam that has just one text, and the text that we're using today is a short story. It's a complete short story in itself called Brothers, and it's about two brothers that go fishing on a lake with disastrous consequences. This is the story, so the students would initially read this to themselves first of all, and then there's the question 1, which is the straightforward 4 things we learn about, and then we're going to go through the more complicated ones today. So question 2, which is the language question. So you're looking for students to talk about things that are in those bullet points, words and phrases, language features and techniques, and sentence forms. And the focus will be on just one short part of the extract, which is here in bold, and they give them that in the exam too. So here are 2 different responses. The first response: Niall's face is small, dark, careful. The writer uses this triple to emphasise Niall's feelings of worry and that he doesn't know what is going to happen next. This has a big effect on the reader, and they will wonder why, and the writer describes Niall, and in this way it can be seen in the quote, small, that Niall is much smaller than Kieran, and so we know Kieran is older, and Niall is more likely to be hurt as he isn't strong. Small means tiny, not big, fragile. The writer is showing us he doesn't realise Kieran is a danger to him. So that's our first response. The second response: the writer implies that Niall is unsure when he stepped cautiously onto the boat, and that as a person he often ducked his head to one side with uncertainty. The writer conveys the idea that Niall is someone who lacks confidence and doesn't have the courage of his own convictions. The use of cautiously and uncertainty reveal that Niall often questions himself and depicts him as a vulnerable person. This creates sympathy for Niall as he seems weak in contrast to the strength and physical confidence of his brother. So, with these 2 responses, we can see that the first response is quite a basic response. We'd give it 3 for attempting to comment, and the second response is much more sophisticated, and I'd be happy to give that 7. That is a level 4 response. So looking at the first one, the 3 things that you're looking for are how they comment on the effect of language, their use of textual detail, and their use of subject terminology. Well, one of the things this answer does do correctly is pick out the fact that a triple's been used. However, when they've tried to analyse that use of the triple, they haven't really matched up their analysis to that quotation. Small, dark and careful doesn't emphasise Niall's feelings of worry, and he doesn't know what is going to happen next. It's true that's what Niall feels, but that quotation doesn't show that. So therefore we can say that's an attempted comment on the effect of language. The use of textual detail is simple textual detail, small, dark, careful. It's not the correct quotation, so I'd be happy to give that a 3. The second response is much better. It uses proper analytical language. It talks about what it implies and it conveys, and the depiction of Niall. So therefore that analytical language tells us that they've attempted to properly analyse the language, and when you read their comments, everything they say there is true and quite perceptive. Their use of quotations is judicious, and it's very, very picky. The cautiously and ducked his head to one side with uncertainty, and then picking out cautiously and uncertainty later on when they analyse in detail, it's done very well. And so we can see that they've really understood that text with a bit of sophistication. The way that they've put those two together, the cautiously and uncertainty, taking two things from different parts of that paragraph and using them together to make a complicated point, is very sophisticated. The difference between the two, when you look back at the first answer, small means tiny, not big, fragile, they've made the same mistake that a lot of students do, and they think that defining the words will get them marks for analysis, whereas what they've actually done is just further made that difference between what they're talking about and what actually the effect of those words are, and they haven't got that at all. So with those two, we'd give one 3 and the other one 7. I think what's helpful now to think about, what is that level 3 response then? If that's a 2 and that's a 4, then where is the 3? So what is the difference between explanation and analysis? So if we look at these two, these are different answers. This is a full answer, so you've got 2 paragraphs here for both of them. We can see that in the level 3 answer, when Niall is waiting, his leg jiggled up and down. This verb choice reveals Niall's nervousness and unease about being in the boat with Kieran. The writer portrays Niall as being uncomfortable with his brother. Both those things are true, and they're explaining it why. But if you look at the level 4 answer, the writer continues this image of unease with Niall's physical movements. Whilst Niall is waiting for the boat to set off, his leg jiggled and his fingers tap-tap-tapped. These movements illustrate Niall's physical discomfort at being with his brother, and his nervousness is manifesting itself in the involuntary movements of his body. Just that on its own is clear analysis versus the explanation of level 3. It doesn't even need that second focus on the verb jiggled. It's already analysing, and the difference is because it's thinking about the reasons why, and that illustrates Niall's physical discomfort at being with his brother, and his nervousness is manifesting itself. So it's thinking back to motivation, the causes of why Niall's behaving the way he's behaving. That is the more detailed analysis versus just explaining what the writer is trying to do. So I hope that that's helped you with the question 2 language question.